What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're going to be having a look at the brand new KIZUNA Clash that's coming on June 20th, so make sure to get your teams prepared for when this eventually does release. And of course, we can get the Super Evolution Skulls for Luffy and Ace, which is going to be very exciting. Officially on Twitter today, we did get the reveal of the gimmicks of each of the fights. Remember, this is not a Super Boss KIZUNA, so it's just a generic KIZUNA with 3 fights that we have to take on. Varying each time around. You've got an int, a quick, and a strength variation. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys 2 separate teams to beat each of the variations. And of course, this is not like the best teams ever. This is just teams that are giving you guys some ideas to things you can think about in terms of clearing this content, utilizing different strategies to get around these gimmicks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first boss we'll have a look at is the first variation versus int. And on this fight, characters that are driven, cerebral, and powerhouse all receive special charge time, as well as receiving max super switch and max versus effect, or at least a high charge of versus effect at least, so that's really good to know. But then you've got, you know, this team that we have here. Now we're using the captains of the film Stampede Luffy captain, and the main reason why we're doing that is because of his really good captain ability. For those of you who don't know, his captain ability has an effect that says he reduces despair and paralysis by 10 turns, and that's really key, just getting around so many different debuffs there. Now this Luffy that I have here is with max level limit break, so he does have the buffed captain. He does also have the buffed special ability too. If you have that, it makes things a lot better for you in terms of the damage that you can output. And you know, honestly, it is actually better to switch out this friend captain for something else, you know, that is at least a driven, cerebral, or powerhouse unit, because running double Luffy might not always be the best bet, but you can still definitely do it. The captain abilities are actually pretty solid still. You can use 1 Luffy on stage 2, and you can use 1 Luffy on stage 3. It actually works pretty well. But in terms of the way that we're using these units here, there's 5 turns of damage threshold on battle 2, so we're using the Shanks special to get around that, which is pretty good. There is also 6 turns of bind inflicted to the middle row, and we can remove that completely because 3 turns of sockets will deal with that, and then the ace support on Luffy can also deal with that too. So that just makes things pretty easy for us for battle 2, and also, as I said, you can use 1 Luffy on stage 2 to kill. Then on the boss stage, you got a bunch of immunities, and there's also stun, which is interesting. So they really want you to use Whitebeard here, because Whitebeard, you can use his special on stage 2. When you reach the last stage, his captain ability, or the special effect of his special, will cut your health, which will remove the stun for you. Alternatively, you can have a support that I have here, like on Sanji Judge. I've got this support of Pudding. This support says that it attaches to Sanji or Reiju, and when you reach the last stage, it cuts your health by 20%. This allows you to get rid of the stun that is inflicted to the team. At least it's only inflicted to the top left character. Now there's also 8 turns of despair and 5 turns of paralysis. Each of those effects are also upped by 1 after level 31. So with the Luffy captain, we can remove the despair and paralysis, so we don't even have to worry about it. But after level 31, there is also an effect that will give you special bind. It's 3 turns of special bind to the middle and the bottom row, and there's also an attack down based on your chain multiplier. So you need to exceed a 3.0 chain. And luckily Garp deals with all of that for us, which is fantastic. Garp has his really cool chain boundary special now with his level limit break, which makes it a lot better. I believe even base Garp could also help you get around this as well, but he gives the chain boundary and gets rid of 10 turns of special bind, so just works pretty well. We've got Eneru for color affinity, and then as I said, Sanji Judge are just kind of here because of that support effect. It's the only reason why they're here. You could use their switch ability for the chain multiplicative buff too, which works well with the rest of the team. And then as I said, you know, Luffy just hits really hard against this boss. Alright, so moving on to our second team that we have here, and it's going to be a pretty odd looking Shanks crew team. Shanks crew is going to be really good here because remember, all of the characters have their super switches maxed out. So what we can do is because we have 2 Shanks crews, we can use the friend captain switch ability first and then his special, which gives us the full board of slots, gives us an attack boost from that super swap, and because we have a quick captain, because our captain we're keeping is the quick unit first, we get a base attack boost for 3 turns, and it means when we reach the last stage, we can use our own captain's super switch to get another full board of slots, to get another attack boost, and then use the special again. And this time, because we have a Psy captain, we can actually go ahead and get the color affinity. So with the 2 Shanks crews and the way that we're doing this, we can have our massive chain lock, we can have an attack boost, we have base attack boost and color affinity, all with just the captains alone. So that's a huge benefit to the squad. A really cool addition to this team is this Zoro character. Zora's actually, now that I'm looking at it, I did see that there is actually the bind that does occur, so technically speaking, we do need to do, so something like this is actually what you'd want to do, because that bind on the middle row, completely overlooked that, but that shouldn't be a problem. You won't need more than, you know, a few characters to kill on stage 2 anyway. We have the chopper here with the support of Brook, so that when we use his special, we can get rid of all the turns of despair and all the turns of the paralysis that will occur. We also have the numbers, and this character is really good because their special at max will get rid of more despair and paralysis, but it says if our HP is 60% or above when we launch the special, it cuts our health by 60% and gives them more special charge time to use their special again to remove further despair and paralysis. But the key thing there is that it cuts the health, and that's big because it allows us to get around the stun debuff that occurs on the friend captain. Very important that we do that. And then because we kind of just have a filler unit here, I mean, and another thing as well I forgot to mention about Zoro, as we said, Zoro has this effect where he gives us an orb boost for our side characters for 3 turns, so using it on stage 2 carries the orb boost over to the last stage. But it says if Luffy is on the crew or as a support on this unit, we remove threshold by 5 turns, so we can use it to get around the threshold on that stage 2, which is so good. And because we just have a filler unit left, we can actually fit a conditional boost on the team, so using Mihawk and Perona, the enemy is not immune to the negative debuff that they apply, so we can just get a free 2 times conditional boost as well. This team will actually do a pretty good amount of damage. Okay, now we can have a look at the secondary fight now, which is going to be versus Quick, and there's going to be cooldown here for Driven, Slasher, and Powerhouse, including their versus and switch abilities, which is nice to see. And this time around, we're using Akainu as the captain, the new free-to-play Akainu, and he's really good here because he does have a really decent captain. I mean, in terms of multiplier, it's nothing special, but he removes 2 turns of despair, and that's pretty big. Despair is a really big thing that they're applying in this KIZUNA, and obviously if you have the Whitebeard and Blackbeard character, you can definitely make through a lot easier through these different you know, bosses, of course. But the annoying thing for this fight is that there is an int slot barrier when you reach stage 2. Now this is obviously because they want you to use Doflamingo and Crocodile Dual Legend that's coming out with the KIZUNA, and their switch ability at max will allow you to get a full board of int slots, make them beneficial to the crew as well, and it also gives you some utility. So they want you to use the super switch here to get a full board of int slots to just pierce that barrier. So the way that we're doing it is we have the Moria special here because it means that when we use Moria on stage 2, when we move into stage 3, we're going to get a color affinity boost for our Driven and Powerhouse characters. So that's the main reason why they're there. But also we have Blackbeard, and Blackbeard gives himself a matching slot, and with the support of Bonnie, it does give us a chain lock, which kind of pseudo allows us to get around the burn a lot easier without having to tap with too many characters. The Bonnie support is completely not required, but it just will give you more damage, obviously. So by using Blackbeard and Moria, well, specifically, you'd probably want to be using Blackbeard first, then Moria, and then you can just kill the boss. It really shouldn't be that bad. And then on the boss stage, of course, there is a lot going on, because there's actually an intimidation where any orb boost that you do to your team is minus by 1 turn, and this is why we have Killer on the team. The Killer will give a 2-turn orb boost, so the intimidation reduces it by 1. There's going to be 8 turns of despair, 9 turns after level 31, which goes down to 6 because of sockets, and then also the Akainu captain removes a further 2 turns of that despair, so it goes down to a 4-turn cooldown for that despair. The Akainu special does remove 6 turns of despair as well, which is obviously pretty awesome. So realistically, you could probably change the captains around just to make things a bit easier. And then obviously Kid's a really good captain. He gives us an attack boost to Dex and Driven, and gives us a full board of the bomb slots, which he treats as beneficial as well. And the Killer special here is really good too, because Killer does remove defense up, which is fantastic. And then Perospero is just kind of here because he allows us to get a chain boundary effect. Not completely required, you can switch that out for any chain related unit. And also Akainu is a good unit to use here because after level 31 you're inflicted with special limit, and his potential ability actually removes that. So I feel like this fight is basically built to be used with the new Blackbeard in mind, and then obviously using this Akainu alongside that. So this is the second team that we have here. This is a bit of an obscure team. We're using Shiki as the captain, and Shiki with level limit break and also with that super evolution. I believe you only just need the super evolution to get the buff, but he actually removes 5 turns of despair as a captain, so that allows you to get around a lot of that effect that will occur here. We're using Queen as the friend captain, mainly just because Queen's a pretty decent unit, and with this team, in terms of getting around that barrier that occurs on stage 2, we have the Amand, and Amand special will allow you to remove 2 turns of the barrier, so that allows you just to do it that way, makes things a bit easier. We also have this World Journey Crocodile, which you can actually get from the metal exchange, and his special will remove the burn for us, so we don't have to worry about it that much, which is at least something nice to keep in mind. And then of course, when you reach the final stage, we've got the Lafitte support to help us remove a lot of despair, so 5 from Shiki, 3 from Sockets, and then also 2 from the Lafitte. So that actually allows us to remove up to 10 turns of despair naturally, which is pretty dope. We've also got a Kainu for a massive orb boost. Another thing that I forgot to mention as well is that you could actually use Shiki on stage 2, because Shiki's orb boost only lasts for 1 turn. So if you use Shiki on the final stage, the Intimidate will actually remove it. However, if we use a Kainu special on the last stage, his orb boost lasts for 2 turns, so we can use that instead. And that's actually pretty nice that we can get access to that. Now, there's also all that despair, which is going to be removed for us, which is great. Now, there's also increased defense, but the thing about the enemy is that you're allowed to inflict defense down to them. So this KIZUNA Blackbeard removes defense, well, he does a defense reduction and gives you a conditional boost against defense reduction, so that's fantastic. So this team actually does a lot of damage and should actually deal with this fight pretty comfortably. The only real annoying thing about this team is that it doesn't really have a lot of type advantage, and that's the only real thing that could be a bit of an issue. And of course, we can use Queen on stage 2 as well, and because we activate the Shiki special on stage 2, Queen's special will automatically activate on the final stage. So, you know, we can actually get around it pretty comfortably. I feel it's just a really odd team, in all honesty, a very, very weird team, but it honestly should be able to get through it pretty comfortably. And here we are at the final boss, which is the strength variation this time. Dex, Quick, and Int all receive cooldowns, so a little bit specific in terms of what you can use in terms of the colors. Now, this is probably the most annoying of the fights, just due to stage 2. Stage 2 gives you 3 turns of special bind and 5 turns of resilience. That's very annoying to get around. This time around, though, we do have Shenk's crew, and he basically deals with stage 2 by himself, being able to remove the special bind. And then, of course, when you use one of the specials of Shenk's crew, you can become the dual captain, which, when you hit your perfects, does end of turn damage. So he does deal with stage 2 comfortably. When you reach the last stage, the enemy is actually allowed to be inflicted with delay, which is very interesting to think about. There's also special reverse, and all of your specials will be special locked until you hit 3 goods, so you definitely need a unit or a captain that can resist special reverse. There's also 6 turns of attack down post level 31, and there is going to be bind inflicted to the middle and the bottom row for 6 turns. So that goes down to 3 with Sockets. With the Halloween Ace support on Luffy, we can remove that bind completely. There is also a chain attack down, but the chain is interesting here. You do have to pay very close attention to it, because it says if your chain exceeds 3.76, then you're going to be inflicted with the attack down. So they actually are restricting the amount of chain that you can get to. So you actually have to make sure that your chain doesn't go too high. So you want something that can get you a 3.75 times chain multiplier. That's the maximum that you can really get. If you start exceeding 3.75, then your damage is going to go down significantly. So you do have to be very, very careful about that. Luckily, Shank's crew can provide that for us, which is very, very nice. And then, of course, with the rest of this team, we've got Luffy for an attack boost, for a potential attack boost. You got Law for an orb boost and also a potential attack boost. You can just switch it around how you like. We also have the Usopp here. Usopp allows us to get a delayed conditional boost against the enemy, which is fantastic. And he also removes 6 turns of attack down. So Usopp is like super perfect for this fight. And then we also have Carrot, because Carrot can actually deal with the special reverse. She also can become the captain, and the good thing about using Carrot is that she will basically allow you to bypass the combo hit barrier that occurs on the final stage at level 31. So have to be very careful about that combo hit barrier, because obviously the deeper you go in your chain, the higher your chain goes if you're using like a chain boundary, for example. So, you know, obviously I wanted to, you know, build some other stuff with higher chain related units, but it's not something that you can really do in this fight. So you have to be very, very careful in how you approach this fight, especially on that final stage. And this is the final team that I have in this video, and this is a bit of a weird team. So we're using Kaido Crew as the captain. It's been a long time since I've ever used this unit, but I just wanted to give it a go and see how it would actually perform. So I guess we'll see how it all goes overall. I think it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. So with this team here, we are using the Ashura Doji special on stage 2, which deals with the special bind, gives us a conditional boost on that stage 2. Depending on the color of the boss on that stage, we could also use one of the Kaido specials to give us color affinity, or we could just use it to inflict a pretty good amount of damage to the opponent too. But then on the boss stage here, we've got like a lot of different supports going on. So we have the Raizo and the Vanderdecken to remove 3 turns of bind when we reach the final stage, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we also have the page 1 support on Kaido Crew, removing 2 of the potential 6 turns of attack down, leaving 4 remaining. The Oars removes 4 turns of attack down, so we can remove all of the attack down for us. The Hody special gives us an attack boost. The Katakuri gives us an orb boost, and then Kaido obviously gives us color affinity. We do have to deal with special reverse, and the way that we're dealing with that is with the super switch of Kaido. Kaido's super switch will fully charge its special. Kaido's special also gives cooldown to strength, quick, and powerhouse. So that deals with that completely, and then after that we can obviously start using the rest of the specials. So it is a bit of a strange team, I will admit, very, very odd. It's definitely not going to be the best team ever, but it should be able to at least get it done, at least in early levels. So we'll see how it goes along. It's just going to be really fun to use Kaido Crew because it has been a really long time since he's actually been somewhat useful. It's just a very, very odd designed unit, but I'm really looking forward to potentially giving him a go. So it's taken me quite a long time, but this is the best I could come up with in terms of a one team versus all in this quest. And yeah, I'm not really too confident in this team lasting for an extended period of time in this KIZUNA clash, but I wanted to show it to you guys anyway, just in case if you guys were wondering about a one team versus all. Look, this is probably not going to be the best one team versus all out there, and of course if people end up pulling the units, and they can build better teams obviously, but this is what I have thus far. And the main crux of this team that you kind of need to have, well, obviously Shanks and Buggy is a pretty big addition because they do remove all of the paralysis and all of the attack down that can potentially be inflicted in this KIZUNA overall, and they also give a significant color affinity boost to Dex and Psy characters, as well as having a super swap that can change some slots around but also give resistance down to the opponent. So you know, obviously that's a pretty hard unit to replace. But another thing as well is we're using V2 Doflamingo as the captain, and the main reason why that is because with his level limit break 5 plus limit break expanded captain, he actually has a captain ability that has pretty good multipliers, but it also removes 5 turns of despair. So very similar to when we were using Shiki on one of the earlier fights. Another thing is that we do have the Going Merry ship completely upgraded to remove an additional turn of bind and despair. So with sockets, the ship, and Doflamingo, we can actually remove all turns of potential despair that would ever be inflicted in this quest across all battles, which is pretty awesome actually, that we can just have that. So we are obviously utilizing a friend captain, Crocodile, and Doflamingo. Ideally we start as the quick unit and then we super swap into the Dex unit. That's exactly how we want to do it in this quest. So we have a predominantly Dex focused team to make full use of the color affinity boost of Shanks and Buggy to ensure that Croc and Dofi do as much damage as they possibly can, because they are super effective against all types in this KIZUNA clash, so that's really good. So in terms of the rest of the team, we do have the Fire Tank Pirates, and they're really good on stage 2 of a lot of the fights because they can remove Special Bind, which is also something that happens with the super swap of Crocodile and Doflamingo. But also the Fire Tank Pirates do really good orb change, they give us an attack boost, and they also get rid of 5 turns of Threshold, which we need to deal with on one of the mini boss stages, so that actually helps out quite a lot. And then we do have the page 1 because we do need some type of effect that can deal with special reverse, and we also need some type of chain lock unit that can be a chain lock anywhere between 3.25 to 3.75, and it also needs to be a unit that is Dex, Quick, or Int, and also has to be Powerhouse or Driven, and this unit does fulfill all of those conditions luckily for us. But then there is one really weird slot, which is the Frankie slot here, and the reason for it is because we need some type of effect that can reduce our HP when we reach the final stage. and we need to do that because of the stun that occurs on the versus int fight. If we don't remove the stun, our friend captain becomes unavailable, and then we basically just lose. So we need to make sure that we can deal with that. The new Zora from the anniversary has a support effect that can remove, will just reduce some HP when you reach the final stage. So Frankie is really the reason why he is here is because he has a special that can remove resilience by 5 turns, which we need to deal with on the strength stage on the mini boss. If we don't have a resilience removing effect, there was another thing I was almost considering, which is the version 1 Capone ship, and it almost worked, but unfortunately we have page 1 on the team who is a powerhouse unit, and you need to run units that are not powerhouse, slasher, or free spirit. So it almost worked. If we had that ship, we'd get an attack boost from it, we'd get end of turn damage, we wouldn't have to worry about it. Alternatively, we could switch out the ship for the Don Krieg ship that would allow us to do end of turn damage, which means we don't really need a resilience remover, which means that the Frankie slot could be replaced with something else. But again, we just need a support or a special that we can use on the final stage that allows us to cut our own HP so that we can actually deal with the stun debuff that occurs here. It's just a super annoying quest, honestly. It's very, very annoying. But that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.